and we are rolling. Today we have Phill. Phill is a former bandmate of mine. We played in a band in New York City called World War IX together, and he's a vocalist, he's a drummer. He played drums in a band called the Screaming Rebel Angels, and I'm sure there's lots of other bands he's played in as well. We are welcoming Phill to the show. How's it going, Phill?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, Earl. I know all the effort that it took to... Is it choppy again? Is that what's happening?
No. It's good. It's good.
Oh, okay. All right. We've put a lot of work into getting this meeting together and making sure that everything happens without a hitch. So it's nice to see that hard work pay off.
The fruits of our labor.
Yeah, definitely. We got a lot of labor, which means we got a lot of fruits.
We probably, at least a half hour already just getting the audio and video working.
It felt like a lot longer than that.
But yeah, so why don't you tell everybody, give them your story, where you started out, and then at a certain point, it's going to be where we cross paths, and then, I might jump in here and there before then, but the stage is yours, Phill.
Yeah, man, jump in anytime, please. My story starts sort of where it is now, here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was a young, dumb kid that got in trouble a lot in school for not listening and talking during class, and eventually found my way to Chicagoland area in the northern suburbs, about halfway between Chicago and the Wisconsin border, in the burbs up there, and eventually met a girl and fell in love and moved to New York City with 2 suitcases full of clothes and a guitar. Figured I'd make it up as I went along, and I did. I got a job at a car service called Carmel in New York City. The phone number is 212 and all sixes. Not that this is free promotion, but just proof that it was a real business that I worked at for 9 years. Between 5 a.m. and 1:15, I was a dispatch supervisor. And it was a lot like the TV show Taxi back in the day. But, all this was pre-Uber, when you could still make money in a car service, I guess. And yeah, the girl that I fell in love with and moved to New York City, like all couples that fall in love and move to New York City, we broke up. And it was a big deal for me. I had to decide whether I was going to move back home and get an overnight job at a gas station, end my years that way, or actually take advantage of being in New York City and do something. And I did a lot of things. I'm an award-winning writer. You can look that up. The Borough of Manhattan Community College. I won a $500 cash prize there, which is, with inflation, a lot more money now, I'm sure. And then I started going to shows, and I knew how to play guitar, and I wanted to be in a band. So I was perusing online websites. I think on MySpace, I saw an advertisement for a band called Sexual Suicide that was looking for a guitarist and singer. And I joined that band, and I was in that band for a number of years. And transitioned into World War IX. And in that transition, also learned how to play drums. I started a podcast. I think this might have been 2017, maybe? Earlier than that, 2013. Back when you had to explain to people what a podcast was, I started a podcast with a guy named Joey Steele, and we did that for a while and turned it into a live event production company, legal and everything, putting on shows and trying to pay other bands. Because the best way that you can get an opportunity is to make an opportunity for other people. So that's what we did. We wanted to get on shows, so we made our own shows. And that was probably 4 different bands that I played drums for, being involved with that guy. It was Joey Steele and the Attitude Adjusters, The Will. I'm sure we crafted some others depending on who showed up to band practice. But I also played drums in other punk rock bands that were together for a summer at best, which is fun. But got the most miles out of Screaming Rebel Angel, and at one point, I think it was our second tour, Earl, that you came into World War Nine's life? You had booked the first tour. And the second one, you decided that we weren't doing it good enough, and you decided to join us, I think. Is that right?
Yep. Now, with World War IX, I'd known those guys for years, since, like, we started going up. My band started going up to New York and playing. We used to play at Manitoba's, the bar Manitoba's a lot, but that's where we first met the guys from World War IX. So that was probably like 2007, 2006, 2007, around that time. And
I
then
think you knew the guys in the band before I did, honestly.
Right, yeah. So I'd known those guys for years and years. And when you joined, you had been with them for, I don't know how many years you've been, but for a while. But we all knew each other. And then when you finally were going to do that first tour with them, they asked me, because I'd met so many people all around the place, they asked if I could book it. So I booked the tour. And then when the second one came along, I was booking it, and I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. I think I'm going to ask. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I jump along? I said, I'll play second guitar. And they're like, yeah, come along.
Yeah.
So that worked out. So that's how that worked out, actually jumping in and joining the band for a while and doing the tours.
Well, because you knew so many people, you were like tour guide. You were the local whenever we would pull into whatever godforsaken venue we would pull into, and you'd be like, oh no, I know this guy here. And then sure enough you did, and that guy would show up, and everything would be A-okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like mafia stuff. You got to know the right person.
Yeah. And you always did.
That's the most important thing when you roll up into, especially if in the really terrible neighborhoods. As long as you know that one person, you're cool. That's all it takes.
Yeah. You knew that one person always.
Yeah, always got to know that one person. So that's, but we had known each other before then, because I think the first time, we had already met. You guys had played shows, and we'd met at, playing shows together in New York amongst various bands. But there was one session where you guys were recording. I think it was the first one that you actually sang vocals on that you were recording. It was at Danny Scream's studio, but yes. I came in and helped. You guys were having a hard time. You were trying to do backing vocals, right? We're a group, gang vocals, whereas a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
Screaming or whatever part it was. And so I jumped in. You guys are having a hard time corralling everybody, because it's like trying to herd cats when you get a bunch
100%.
of rock and roll people trying, they're all drinking, having fun. So I jumped in, and I somehow I got them to at least get through those recording sessions for a while, for at least that short period of time that we were recording, those gang vocals. And I tried to make it fun too. If you can't do it in a boring way. You got to make it fun for them. So if you make it fun for them, they'll be, oh yeah, this sounds like fun. Let's do this. I was like, all right, everybody, at this part, I'm gonna, throw my finger in the air, and we're all gonna scream, or whatever the lyrics were.
Sure.
But that was a good time.
That was a good time. That was a very good time in World War IX history. I think all the times in World War IX's history were good times. At least for the people in the band. We always had fun, and it's so wonderful that we got to share that with you, Earl.
Likewise. And Danny Scream's studio, that was another entity in itself. I think it's a nail salon now, but at that period of time, in the late 2000s into the, I'm not sure when he took off. It was probably around, by 2015, I think he was already done. He was out of there. But that place, it was a rehearsal studio, but also he would have shows and parties there. So that was his own little. I think you guys played there, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think any of my bands played there.
Yeah,
so
we
he used to have shows there too.
And
it was fun.
Yeah. Also, one of the events that he had there when I was involved with Punk Island and running a stage there, we had a benefit for it. An auction for art and just all kinds of fun stuff. And I actually have an original Justin Melkman flyer that he did for the benefit there, hanging on my wall one moment.
So for those listening on audio, Phil went over to his wall, and he is now back. That's a nice one. So the art, it had, what is that on there, Phil?
This is a Dispatches from the Underground presents a Punk Island art auction benefit. We had some poetry readers there, because I was actually taking classes at Hunter College at the time and was in a poetry class to satisfy my credit requirements, and invited some of the kids from that class to come and do their thing. I think Joey Steele and the Attitude Adjusters played. World War IX played. And we raised quite a bit of money. It was enough to make me nervous that it wasn't legit, but it absolutely was, because we walked away with it and spent it all on Punk Island.
Nice. And what's funny, so you had mentioned the podcast you were doing with Joey Steele. I had totally forgot about that until just now, or when you mentioned it. What was the name? What was the name of that show?
It was called Dispatches from the Underground.
Right.
Yeah, we did it for a very, very long time, but it got to a point that I had to walk away from all that.
It can probably still be found, right? If people wanted to go check it out.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's probably still online somewhere.
Yeah, I think Apple probably still has it on their deal, because that's the main one we did it through. But yeah, there's a ton of that. If you start listening to that, anybody that likes to fall asleep to people talking, that is one to load up on, because I'd say there's probably a good month's worth of material if you played them all back to back, if not longer.
What it's funny about the whole podcast thing. So in 2008, there was this website. It was called Blogspot Radio, and people at that time, this was before I think the term podcast even existed, and I forget the dude's name who came up with it, but so people were just doing these little online radio shows. So this website called Blogspot Radio, they would you could set up your radio show. So I started one. It was Ray Grady's Radio, and I would promote it through MySpace. And what you would do, you would share a link, and that was the link where people could go to listen to the show. And of course, you had to tell them what time, like 8 p.m. Eastern or whatever. And it was very much like a podcast. But what I was doing, I would play some music as well. But I would have guests on, just like we're doing right now. I would have guests on. I had Justin Melkman. I had him on. I had some other artists, some other musicians. And I would have never thought back then that this would be the media that everybody wanted to consume. Now, people liked it. Radio shows have always been fun, but the way it's done now, you would never have thought people would have had the attention span. At least that's what I would have thought. Surprising, right?
For me, it was a technology. I'm surprised at how quickly technology has advanced, because I remember walking into Guitar Center in 2003 trying to figure out how to make it all work from home, and it was just a disaster with hardware and software and having to buy so many different things to plug in, and so I always thought it would be a technological limitation, and then once apps started coming out where you can do this kind of thing easily, I was very excited. And then everybody came out with their own show and things, and it got very crowded. Once famous people started doing podcasts, it was over for us regular Joes, I tell you.
Oh, it's just like the stock market and just like Bitcoin. Once the big money gets involved, you're gonna have a whole lot harder time. It's that goes with everything. It can be music, whatever. Like when the big money dictates. I'll tell you a quick funny story. So I remember. So Facebook, right? So Facebook. So this is after people were leaving MySpace and jumping over to Facebook, because MySpace used to be the big platform for all the bands had pages and stuff.
Yeah.
But so Facebook was cool because what I liked about it at the beginning is you could post something. Let's say you have a band page, or it could be, or a coffee shop, whatever. And if somebody likes your page and you posted, they would see it on their feed. But now, it changed. I forget what year it was. I don't know. It might have been around 2011. I think it was around 2011. That's when they decided they were going to start where you have to pay, and if you pay to quote unquote boost. You boost your post, then people will see it. And I knew it was over, because at that point, I knew like the underdog had a chance. Like you could be a small whatever business band, but they could use Facebook and they would always see, just because they clicked like or follow because they wanted to see your stuff, they would always see it. But once they started charging, I was like, big money's now, it's all in the hands of whoever's got the most money. to be seen, and I knew it was over. I was like that, and I knew it wouldn't last. I thought to myself before, like a couple years before, I said, "There's no way this can last because what it's doing is giving the underdog a chance." I know that's not gonna, that doesn't fly in general. Very seldom.
Yep, it's true. It's been over for guys like us for a long time, Earl.
Oh yeah, and
sure.
Here's another quick funny story. So, Kenny from Typo Negative. So I worked with him a lot in New York because he did rigging for live events, and we were always working on the same jobs. But me and my other buddy, we were standing there talking to him, and he's like, it was hard enough back, it was hard enough for us to make a living back in the day. He's like, you guys are screwed. At least he told it like it was, right?
Yeah, you can definitely appreciate that.
Right. But, so I was going to ask you,
where did I get my cool hat?
No, I know where you got the cool hat.
Yeah.
The hat.
For those listening at home, because I don't know in how many times we've restarted this, if I've made this apparent already. I'm wearing a Roadhouse hat. I'm wearing my Roadhouse sunglasses and my Roadhouse t-shirt. So, just to bring it up, Earl, my Roadhouse t-shirt has some holes in it because I've been using it so much. I use it as a shirt to exercise in.
That's a good use for it.
If there's a new series of these coming out, please. I know I'm on the mailing list. I am a subscriber, but let me know, man.
I got a shirt for you. I'll get you a shirt.
All right, cool. Maybe we'll work something out in March.
It'll be your consultation prize for being on the podcast.
Awesome.
A Roadhouse shirt. That's how I'll get people to come on the podcast. Just offer them a free Roadhouse shirt.
Man,
I'll throw it out there now.
I'd have done it for some Roadhouse barbecue sauce or Roadhouse hot sauce because that stuff was delicious.
All right. There's only one bottle left, as far as I know, that exists, and that's going to be for the apocalypse. It's going to be squirrel sauce, or perhaps rabbit sauce. And if there's only crow to eat, it'll be crow sauce.
I'd eat that sauce on anything. It was delicious. Wasn't too spicy. Some kind of cherry, smoky something. It was very good. Yeah.
It could probably make crow taste good if you're hungry enough.
Yeah,
I'm sure crow would be delicious.
I've eaten crow before.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure we all have. All right, I wanted to ask you and then I'll tell you. So when we were touring in World War IX, now specifically World War IX tour, what were your favorite tour moments? When we were out of all those tours,
I'm going to start with a couple that are Earl related.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
In honor of you, Earl.
I'm honored.
Yeah, and the first of which was when we were playing in a venue in Tennessee. We had spent all day on the Nashville Strip.
Oh boy,
eating food and drinking and just there's bands up and down the Strip, playing all the time, anytime you go, because that's what it's there for. So we're seeing just these really good musicians and bands play, and then. I guess it might have been just me that assumed that we would be playing a similar type venue full of people. But we did not. We, I think, literally crossed some train tracks to play in a dive bar, which is fine because that was World War IX's home. That's where we felt the most comfortable, was in dive bars. And we started out, when we were loading in, they were playing wrestling on the TV, and I was very excited about that because I'm a big wrestling fan. And I was explaining to you, Earl, how wrestling works.
You did a very good job too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And they cleared the spot. There was no stage. We were playing on the same tile floor that people walk to the bathroom, right in front there. And and I remember I think it was a band that played before us had a song about freezing poop and shoving it back in. That was the chorus. I don't remember the name of the band.
I do not either.
I thought, how are we going to top this in World War IX?
It was tough.
But we did, and it was with your help, Earl. And it was because you trusted me. I don't know if you remember this particular moment, but you were playing guitar, and I yelled. You were on the floor. You were like on your knees or something, doing a rock and roll solo. trying to impress the tens of people that were there. And I tried to push your head back, and you gave me a look like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" And I yelled, I said in your ear, "Just lay down." So you did, while you were playing guitar. Earl is not missing a note while he's playing. In doing this, you laid down, and I went and got a chair that was at the bar and put it over your head, and was standing on it and doing, kind of funny acrobatics and things, and, leaning over and yelling in your face, singing as you're playing under the chair, laying there the whole time. And I remember after the show, you came up and told me that one of the folks there asked you how we planned something like that. Like, how do y'all think to do that? That kind of question. And it wasn't. It was the spirit of rock and roll. We were trying to save the day. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Trying to make it all feel good for a minute. So that is a favorite moment of mine, because we improvised together and we did the thing and people were entertained, and that's the whole point.
Now I can add real quick.
Yeah.
My recollection of that is at some point I was like, how did I end up under this chair? That's all I know. Like, just now, if somebody, if not you, had just told me that and just asked me, I'd be like, yeah, I was up under a chair. I don't know how I ended up under that chair, but I was under a chair. I thought I fell and ended up under a chair.
No, man, I just asked you to lay down while you were playing guitar.
That sheds a lot of light on things. See, I told you doing this podcast that I would walk away from this podcast knowing something that I didn't know before, and it was about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the second one was, I think it was after that tour, maybe the first tour that you were on. It was the first opportunity that you and I had the opportunity to be in a small enclosed space together for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think before that, like I'd known you and known of you. I think the first time I saw you was at Asbury Lanes, singing about trash bags.
Oh right, yeah. Murdoch's trash bag.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I was like, oh, this guy's all right. But it was upon completion of that first tour you were with us. We were in Philly. I was getting out of the van. We're unloading everything, dropping you off, and you said, "Phill, you're a sufficient frontman." And I thought, God damn, that's the nicest thing I think Earl could ever say to me. I was nervous. You were with us. You were a seasoned veteran at that point, and I still felt brand new. I was like, oh man, I got to impress this Earl guy.
I don't remember saying that at all.
Trust me.
It sounds like something I might say, though.
You were a sufficient frontman. Oh man, it felt great. Like I won an award.
You're more than sufficient. I didn't want you to get a big head, though. I know how singers are. I know how lead singers are. You give them a little compliment. Oh, man, look out.
Weren't you a lead singer?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, all right. So you know. Intimately familiar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we toured again and again, I think at least 2 more times. And it was a ton of fun each time. If I could, there's a lot of things that I don't miss. Like when you're trying to make something creatively and you have to start over again because it breaks or is broken so many times. Like kind of like we did today in getting the podcast started.
Mm-hmm.
That happens in anything that you try and do creatively. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't miss the process, man. There's been a few times out here that I've felt the itch, to maybe start, talk to some musicians, see what's going on. But then when I talk to musicians and see what's going on, I want no part of it.
I know exactly what. Well,
having to sit through the delusional conversations again. Like, I don't want to have a week-long conversation about the logo font.
We're kind of going for like a Sublime meets Megadeth logo. What do you think of that? That would be cool, right, Phill?
Maybe harder edges. I don't know, man, because it depends on what color. Because I might want to see different stuff in different colors. No, man, I've had a few of those conversations since I've been out here, and it makes me tired just to think about.
It can be exhausting.
All that over again. Yeah, just no thanks. I am a dad. To those that don't know, the reason I walked away from music was because my wife and I intentionally it was not an accident. We're starting a family, and we got a bit more good news than we bargained for because we ended up with twins. And neither my wife nor I are from New York City, and it is very hard and very expensive out there to raise a family without family. So we retreated to Indianapolis, Indiana, where I am now, where I'm originally from, and we've made it work very well. We have a yard. We have a shed in the back that's wired for electricity. I have a chest freezer in my garage full of meat that I've purchased from a local farm. I have a pickup truck. I have a warm bed. I have other food in my fridge. I have a dentist. I have a primary care physician. I have a lot of good things going for me here in Indiana. I think we've built a great life, and I am hopefully the father to my kids that a lot of your listeners could have used in their life.
Absolutely. I'm sure you're a great dad. But you also know this. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So now that you guys are back out in Indianapolis, it's a sure thing because it's so difficult to just survive in New York City, especially when you're starting out the first 3 to 5 years. If you can do that, you're almost guaranteed success anywhere else that you go.
Yeah,
your ability to almost
deal with
guaranteed.
Shit. Yeah,
right.
Your ability to deal with it has gone way up.
Exactly.
Especially if the job that you had in New York City calls you after they go fully remote in the pandemic and says you're a known commodity and we need you.
Mm-hmm.
That can make life a lot easier if you're working for a New York City company in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, absolutely. The pay, I'm sure, is a lot better than a lot of other places.
I have sufficient.
You're a sufficient worker, Phil. Okay, so the touring. So here's a couple of mine, just off the top of my head, of the tours. So there was one, and I don't know what, we might have been, we were in Tennessee or Kentucky, right? And so we wake up, and there was a pull-up bar outside of the hotel, the motel we stayed at.
That might have been Virginia, actually.
It was one of those. Yeah. But so we're out there, drinking coffee, having a cigarette in the morning, and then I was like, I start doing pull-ups on the pull-up bar with a cigarette in my mouth, and then you had a cigarette in your mouth, and then John walks over and he's like, you should be the coach, and you're coaching him, you're training him. I was like, that's a great idea. It'd be like Rocky. So I'm there doing pull-ups. We both have cigarettes in our mouth. we took this photo. It worked out great. It reminds me of Toxic Avenger. There's a scene in Toxic Avenger, and I think it's the first one. There's these two guys, they're doing sit-ups, and they're handing the cigarette off to each other every time they do the sit-up. That's what that reminded me of.
It was very similar to that.
And then there's also, let's see if you recognize this. Oh, I'm sure you do, but the guys, you may have already been to one, but I don't think the other guys in World War IX had ever been to one. We went for the first time to Waffle House. For those guys, was that your first time as well?
Oh no.
I didn't think so. Coming from Waffle Indiana, I'm pretty sure they have. Yeah. So I drink out of this every. Let's see if I drop this on the computer, the podcast is over. But so for those listening, I'm holding up a Waffle House coffee mug, and just some insider information. If you would like a Waffle House coffee mug, all you got to do is sweet talk whoever is taking your order at a Waffle House and throw them a few bucks. $5 is usually the magic number.
Yeah.
If you definitely want that mug, offer them 6 or 7. But if you throw them $5, you usually get the mug. Because I don't even think they're supposed to sell them, but they sell them.
I mean, what's the difference? If one was going to fall on the ground and break anyway, it's better to get out of the restaurant before that happens.
That's exactly. You're planning ahead for the future.
Yeah, I love Waffle House. I've brought my kids to Waffle House. Their first experience, they got the Waffle House hats. I will say, though, one of my kid has inherited some of what could be considered my bad attitude. Because the first time we went to Waffle House, and every time after, when the waiter or waitress asks for the order, guess what the first thing he says is? Pancakes.
Pancake, right.
Right, and I have to tell him, this is not Pancake House. It's Waffle House. And then he laughs at me. So,
Chip off
that's how
the old block.
fatherhood's going. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so and the other one was also that night in Nashville was fun too. There were several more, and I think another one we were driving down. Okay, so these guys had never been in the South before, like none of them.
The other folks in the band, yeah,
right?
Yeah,
they
were
had
Northerners.
They had never been below the Mason-Dixon line. So we get down to, I think we were in Virginia. Yeah, we were heading to Virginia Beach, and there was this huge rebel flag, Confederate flag. And they're just looking at it, like their eyes got like big as salt. They're like looking up at it, and they're like, "Is that legal?" And I said, "You guys have no idea where you're at now. Not only is it legal, it's often encouraged. Most of these places.
Yeah, some people won't shoot you for having one.
That's but so that was interesting. And I'm trying to think. Oh, another fun one. We were. So it was actually towards the beginning of the tour. So we played Philly, right? So we played Philly, and then the only way it worked out, I had booked us a show in Charlotte, but the show was like an early show. It was like a matinee show. And the only way to make it there, we had to wake up super early and jet down there. So I drove. I was like, I'm driving. We woke up early. So we get down there, and there were all these little, the way they had set it up, it was almost like a 4th of July party. It was outside.
Yeah,
and they had all these little small swimming pools, like kiddie pools, filled up with water. And at one point during the set, I don't know. I think you did plan ahead. You took your phone and your wallet. You didn't want it to get wet, and you went and jumped in.
Let me add some color here. Earl,
okay, a little more context.
We played a Philly show, and Philly shows are always late because they're a great time, and we had a conversation as a band of like, are we going to sleep here or are we going to drive and then sleep? And we made the decision to get out of Philly, drive for a couple hours, sleep for a couple hours. I remember very specifically that it was 3 hours that we were going to, that was the debate. It's like, are we really going to pay the money for a hotel room for 3 hours of sleep? And it was decided yes, so we did that, and it was a fine establishment on the side of the highway at that hour of night,
Delaware, if I recall.
Yeah, and then we had to basically drive 8 hours worth of miles in 6.5 or something. It was ridiculous. And yeah, Earl, you gunned it the whole time down there, and I remember everybody in the van being absolutely fucking destroyed, emotionally and physically, trying to put their life together on that trip. And then we made it to the show, and when I saw all those pools, I was smelly, I was hot from sweating in the van, I was pissed off from only eating hot dogs at the Milestone and not a real meal before that. So I took off my hat, my keys, my wallet, and I trust Earl, for things like what happened in the first tour, that we talked about. Put my stuff in my hat and said, Earl, I need you to watch this. I'm going in the pool. And you said, okay. And you watched my stuff, and it was fine. And somewhere in the set, that was the one, man, the name of the band is going to escape me. Bro something. But the lead singer of that band, I think, tried to steal all the attention in the room by standing in front in a Speedo while we were performing. I remember that vividly. So I had to steal the attention back from the room, which I did by singing to his penis. I'm not going to be intimidated by that. So and then at one point I thought, man, I was getting tunnel vision just because it was hot and didn't have a lot of food, and it was just, a rough night the night before, that I knew it was the time to go into the pool. And I did, and it was great. There were a couple ladies in there that fed me beer while I was in there, so it helped bring down my internal temperature as well. And then we went back and finished the set. But yeah, that was...
It ended up being worth the trip. See, I was so worried. I was like, we're flying. I can't believe I didn't get a speeding ticket, but I'm flying down, we're going down, 95, then to 85, and then 40.
At 95 miles an hour.
And I was so worried. I was like, I really hope this show's good, because if we went to all this trouble just to get down here and this show sucks, it would be very disappointing. But it turned out great. It turned out to be a great show, so it was worth the heartache and the headache.
Totally. That one was. That one definitely was. But that was part of why I liked having you in the band, or being in a band with you, Earl, is because you were always able to help frame it as a good time no matter what happened.
Yeah, that's the way I did that for years.
But it's not something that everybody does.
That's right. So I can definitely say with the Ray Grady's, no matter how bad it got, and no matter how bad a show was, we still made it fun. Mm-hmm. We would always make it fun. Like a good example, we played. This is a World War IX show, and I was with you guys, and Brian was
the bassist
there as well. Right? He was on that one, and we played this little place in Tennessee, Johnson City, Tennessee, and I think it was another matinee show, and there was maybe 10 people, and I pulled all the guys. I said, "Listen,
no. Can let me add some color here, Earl."
Okay, see, that's why you're on here, to add the color. I'm giving the boring details.
Yeah. Maybe you're thinking of a different show, but Johnson City was the show where we stayed in a hotel the night before, and it was a fancy hotel that we had the hookup through our drummer's dad's corporate whatever. So we check into the lobby, and I think, oh, this is great. I'm hungry. It's the middle of the night. They have salads here. I'll get a spinach salad. So I ate a spinach salad at like 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We wake up, we go to Johnson City, and I had explosive diarrhea all day. So I remember Johnson City very well. We got there early. There was a bookstore that, I think everybody kind of dispersed from the van. And what I did is I went to the bookstore. I had diarrhea there. I went to the coffee shop. I had diarrhea there. And when we got to the venue, there were a bunch of people there. And I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble because there's a lot of people here. I hope the bathroom situation is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time we were set up and ready, all the people had left because it was the end of the show before we were supposed to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think that the other bands that were performing on the bill, all of them were there at the same time, during our set, because it was very, very empty. While the other band was playing, it was only World War IX that was watching that band, and the bartender. Mm-hmm. Which for me was great because I had diarrhea in that bathroom so many times. But for those that have been to punk rock bar bathrooms, you might understand what is so treacherous about it. But this one in particular, the toilet was in the back, against the back wall, facing out, and there was no door on the stall. And the stall only came out far enough to cover half of the toilet. So anytime that I went to shit on there, if anybody walked in, they would see my knees sticking out. And yeah, so I had shit there like three or four times. And then we did our set. And that was the one time, Earl, that you gave me a talking to at a show, because while I was doing my thing, I was getting the tunnel vision and I was getting the sparklies around the side, and it was in between songs, and I sat down for a minute thinking, man, I am not doing okay right now. I wonder if I should say anything to the guys. No, I'm going to power through. I'll finish the show. I'll get the rest of the diarrhea out, and then everything will just be fine. Just need to get through the next 20 minutes. And I did, and we were loading everything up into the van, and then we sat in the van, and as we were sitting there, and I was sweating profusely, trying to hold in newly formed diarrhea, because I hadn't shit in the last 3 minutes. Earl, you sat down and turned back to me and said, "Don't ever sit down during a performance again."
I did not say that.
You sure did. You really shouldn't be sitting down during the show, man. You're the singer. You're the guy in front. I'm like, yeah, I know, man. I've been shitting all day. I don't feel well. But yes, you absolutely did. And I appreciate it because you cared. It showed that you cared, even though there were only literally three people there watching. Because after our set was over and we had the van loaded, there were a ton of people there for the next show. So,
of course. That's the way it always goes.
That's the way it goes for World War IX. We're always playing down the street from the big one.
That's where I think the title of that EP kind of came from, is Phoning It In, because because I think before that show, I was like, listen, guys, we can't phone it in. Or I said something, and then John jumped in and was like, yeah, guys, no, we're not going to phone it in. We're actually going to really play, even though there's, really nobody there. But
literally, sometimes.
That one popped in my head. I'm sure there were other ones. I wanted to ask you, so you worked at Sweatshop Studios, which is in Brooklyn, and what's the name of that street that's on? I already forgot the street.
It was on the Montrose stop.
Montrose, that was it, yep. So it's right there. And so how long did you work at Sweatshop Studios? It was a while, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, if you're asking the IRS, I didn't work there at all.
Well, of course, there's that. But IRS aside,
number of years, I think, few years.
So I wanted to ask you, because I've been to these rehearsals, especially even that one, like a million times. Mm-hmm, and I would also, I would, you're outside, you're waiting to get in your room, or you're outside hanging out, getting ready to leave. And I used to think to myself, I was like, what would it be like to work here? And then we would sometimes have practice, or I would be practicing with other bands, and you would be there. You were actually working there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was it like hearing that cacophony of all this different bands, all, for that many hours at a time? Did it make you start to hate music? Because I would start to be like, man, this is terrible.
In a way, yes. But it also made me not like musicians as well, because I would hear the same conversation, with everybody hanging out in front of their rooms waiting to get in. What are you going to shoot the shit with your band members? Well, what are you going to shoot the shit with your band members about being in a band? So it was hearing the same conversation so many times. Oh, I think if we just get the right recording, and all the I know a guy conversations were such a drag, because I could usually point out which guy in the band was going to say it just by hearing them. And it just, as a younger person, when I lived in the northern suburbs of Chicago, I worked at the Great American Cookie Company at a food court in a mall. Mm-hmm. So for those that don't know, the giant cookies where you'd get a frosting picture on them, and all the snickerdoodles and weird named cookies that you would buy on the edge of the food court is where I worked. And I used to love cookies. I worked at that job for 9 months. I couldn't eat cookies again for years. I think that's where I am now with music, because I did the thing, man. I did it in New York City. I sang in New York City's best punk rock band. I played drums in a bunch of bands. I did the podcast thing. I helped organize shows. I did charity work, benefits, tours. Like I did all that.
You were a busy guy. You weren't just sitting around. You were always doing something up there.
With the addition of working at Sweatshop and just being around it so much, from 1 in the afternoon until 1 or 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I would say anything that you think that's bad that could happen when you're renting a unsupervised room to small groups of people for hours at a time happened there. There were people that left drugs. There were people that left musical gear. There were fights. There was incidences involving bodily fluids. We had a naked drummer come in one time. And what was particularly bad about this naked drummer is he used our drum throne, the company's drum throne, but it was one that was cracked, because it was the company's, it maybe wasn't kept to bed, because it was cracked, it was not a watertight seal. Mm-hmm. So when he was done drumming and we moved the thing, you could put your hand on it, and it was like wringing out a sponge. There was so much sweat from this dude, and that was probably one of the more disgusting things that I had to deal with at that shop.
Was that what's his name from G.G. Allen's band, Dino or whatever his name is?
No. I at least know what that
different
guy
naked
looks
drummer.
like. Yeah. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah. I would say at least keep boxers on.
Or bring your own drum throne.
There's that too. Yeah, play nude. If you want to play nude, no problem. But bring your own BYOT.
Yeah, very much so. But I'm very happy that I had those experiences, because dealing with strangers, their varying levels of sobriety, and all the different fluids and things in that kind of environment, I feel prepared me for fatherhood. Because it's been a lot more of the same. I've had to deal with all kinds of bodily fluids from these guys. They're I'm pretty sure not drunk, but act drunk, if you know what I mean. If you've ever hung out with a kid, it's like they're drunk all the time.
I used to be one, believe it or not.
A drunk or a kid?
Mostly kid.
Ah, okay. Really?
I wanted to ask you, so that actually is a good segue to another thing I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you, so everybody has some stories, all right? I got some from Philly, I got some from New York, and then, of course, beyond. But New York, specifically New York, what are some of the craziest things that you saw in New York City where, you know, that you probably wouldn't have believed existed until you were there?
Probably seeing someone poop in the street like an adult.
Oh yeah, you see that a lot. That's pretty commonplace.
Looking back, I realize how common it is, but to just be walking down the street and see someone pooping, I think what shocked me the most was my reaction to it, which was no reaction at all. I just kind of kept walking and going about my business.
That's most people's reaction in New York. What are you going to do? Run over there and be like, stop that right now.
That was, totally when I realized that perhaps that I have acclimated to the New York City lifestyle, when I can walk by someone that is literally spread cheek pooping in the street and just keep it on moving without breaking stride.
Oh, there's much worse you'll see people doing on the subway and more.
Yeah, I got offered drugs on the subway. Crack cocaine, that was nice. I said no. Didn't know where that crack came from, you know?
Politely declined that one.
Yeah.
It was very generous of him, though.
Yeah, I don't know why you would. I hear it's expensive, so I don't know why you would share it. But it was on the subway on the way to work at 30 in the morning before Carmel.
Yeah, some people they like to have a drinking buddy. They wanted to have a crack buddy.
Oh well, he did not find a friend in me.
What about? So the subway, I've seen about everything in the subway, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, lots of X-rated things I've seen people doing in the subway. And apparently, I don't know if it got worse for a while. So you took off. What year did you leave? 2018?
I left a year before the pandemic.
Is that when you took off? 2019.
I think 2019, yeah.
End of 2018. So 2019.
Yeah.
And then I took off March 2020. They were talking about closing off all the roads. I'm like, these people have lost their mind. I'm getting out of here for a while. And that while turned into now 5 years.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, Earl.
Oh, yeah. Just 2 weeks.
That's all we need.
But, wait, where was I going with this? So I was going with, the subway. So apparently the subway, it got worse for a while. Like, did you not see a while back that they set somebody on fire? Like, this dude just set this lady on fire in the subway. I don't know if that would happen. I don't know. It was sometime last year.
I'm going to say something controversial, Earl, and I hope it doesn't bring out the pitchforks and torches at you. But probably I visited New York City about a year ago, so this is post-pandemic, about a year or two, and I would say the subway was a lot better.
See, I've also heard that
because back when I first moved to New York City and was reading the paper and hearing about things, I remember hearing the story about how a homeless guy was attacking people with chainsaws down there. He took some chainsaws from the MTA and were attacking people. One homeless guy, to be clear. So, like, these kind of crazy things on the subway story don't really affect me. The subway is a very big place, and there's a lot of people on it. What surprised me, and I want to be very specific, so you folks that haven't lived in New York City, this may be lost on you. I used to have to, at Union Square, taking the L into Brooklyn during rush hour, I used to have to take the L in the opposite way in 8th Avenue, where it ended, to be able to get a seat on the L going out to Brooklyn. When I visited most recently, within the last year, at rush hour at Union Square, getting on the L going into Brooklyn, plenty of seats everywhere. So I don't think New York City is as back as they've said. There still seems to be a lot of room in that capacity.
A lot of people left, and a lot of people don't want to take the subway anymore. Can you do me a favor? Take your microphone. I'm getting, you know, that the pop sound you get. If you can move it away, or like angle it to where you know when you do the test, it's like perpendicular and hopscotch. Like say perpendicular.
Perpendicular.
Now, say hopscotch.
Perpendicular hopscotch. Hopscotch.
There we go. That's perfect. If you can stay right there.
All right, I'll stay here.
About that about that distance. But what else I got wrote down here? Oh, I wanted to talk about the World War IX, the video, some of the videos you guys did. So World War IX did a lot of great videos during their time, especially during your time with them. Actually, I don't even know if they did a video before you joined the band. I don't think they had ever done it. If they had, it wasn't as near as creative or whatever. So the first one...
They did. It were clips. They did, like stock footage kind of stuff, I think.
Right. But when you joined, you guys actually started doing real music videos. So there was... The first one, it was about the burrito. Right?
A Race with the Devil, about eating late-night Mexican food and rushing home before you shit yourself, yes.
So that was a good one. I encourage anybody to go watch us on YouTube. Just look up World War IX, WWIX, and all their videos pop up. Now, and then there was another one. I don't know if it was the one after that, but so it was. What was the name? The one about the car? Something Supreme? Cutlass Supreme?
Yes, Cutlass Supreme. That was
Cutlass
the name
Supreme.
of the song.
Okay,
yeah,
so
you're featured heavily in that one.
So I played a police officer, and there was one scene you were driving the car and you were paying me off to not give you a ticket. That was one scene. And then there was several other scenes where I'm like chasing you guys, but that was fun. And also another reason I like that shoot, it was a block from where I was living at the time. So that was super convenient. I really like that one. So that's another good video if you want to watch it. World War IX, Cutlass Supreme. Are there what are the other? I'm sure you would know better.
I was partial to Thank God It's Monday. I thought that was a great video.
That was a very good video.
Yeah, very well directed.
Have you Seen My Drugs was a good video.
Yes.
They were all great. I liked all the World War IX.
I think everybody does. I think everybody should. There
was always a comical element to them. Oh, I appeared in another one too. It was green screen. What was that song called? The Bottles? If One of These Bottles?
I don't think you were in If One of These Bottles.
I was definitely, because I got the bottle broken over my head.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's that one, but there was another one.
And you took it the best. You were able to do it, and you just kept a straight face. Everybody else was like making a cringe face when of course these aren't real glass, but they're the prop bottles. But I think you were like just smiling, but everybody else is like, because they wouldn't just break easy. You have to really hit it to make it break. So there was a little bit of a, anticipation for this bottle getting broken over your head.
Yeah, I was able to, I think, rely on my professional wrestling fandom to learn how to take fake.
You brought out your inner
bottles.
Undertaker.
Yeah. And the video that you're thinking of, Earl, is Exhibit AA.
Exhibit AA, that's the one. Yeah. So there was that one as well. That was a good one, too.
Yeah, a lot of those I can be attributed to Justin Melkman's creativity. Any cartoon thing that you see, any little weird doodle or whatnot, was all him and his creativity. So I think it added a very unique flavor to the band.
Yeah, he usually, he would work with whoever. Him working for The Daily Show, he already had a good sense of how to put, you got a script, you got a plan, you just put it all together, and then you can do, usually in editing, even if things go off the rails a little bit while you're recording. But usually, in the music videos I've done, as long as you have a somewhat of an order, like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, then you can, roll with it as you're going along. If you need to change things up,
make it work.
Right. And I'm trying to think. So what else? So you're done for at least for now with music as far as bands.
Yeah,
we had spoken
no desire
not long ago, and you were talking about there was some band that you had reached out to, or they had reached out to you, or maybe it was like a classified section. I forget what it was, but it was really funny. Whatever. Whatever.
Yeah,
you
there's
were
been a
telling
couple
me.
of them. There was one that they apparently were already a band and they were looking for a drummer, and they had a drum set. They had everything. I met at the Taco Bell ahead of time, and they talked a very good game, but showed up to practice, and it was like half an electronic drum kit that was missing things, missing toms, and one cymbal. And I did the best that I could. I humored him for an hour and then had to go. And then there are a couple other people that I've had conversations with, and just talking to a musician about music, about making music, it makes me feel tired, man. It makes me feel very
It's
tired.
exhausting.
It is. And that's just talking. That's not even just leaving my house on a weekly basis to have band practice. Like, just even that, it's like, what? I'm not going to get home until 10?
That's the thing about World War IX, is half the time we weren't even talking about music half the time. We were talking about some other crazy stuff that was going on.
And it was always fun because everybody in World War IX, and I'm going to include myself when I say this, was a really good person.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
And we had a lot of fun doing the thing, and it was always obvious that we were having a lot of fun. And really, once you do that, for me, because in high school, before I moved to New York City, I would dream of being the singer of a punk band. I would dream of living in New York City. Then for me to go and actually go there and do the thing and have it be World War IX and have it be so great in all the ways that it was great. Moving back to Indiana, man, it's like I didn't have a dream my dream wasn't to play in front of 15 people at a dive bar.
Right.
I had fun doing it with World War IX because everybody in that band was so great. It was nice hanging out with everybody. But I don't see myself doing it again. You know, I'm a husband and I'm good at it. I'm a dad and I'll tell everybody I'm good at it. I have a full-time job and I'm good at that. That can be enough.
Yeah.
That can be enough.
That's more than a lot of people are doing. But as far as playing for the 15 people, at least, let's say like a place like New York or Philly, if you have shows where you're playing for like 15, every now and then you're going to get one of those shows where it's poor turnout, whatever. There's, some other big bands in town playing, but you're also going to have the really awesome shows that make it worth it. Every now and then you got to play, a dud. So,
yeah, totally.
Made it worth it.
I just don't want to get back into that rhythm, man. And honestly, if it's a great show, fine. But I don't want to play for 3 years before, you get comfortable with the people that you're playing with again. And everybody in World War IX was very well seasoned musicians. A lot of the people that I got involved in music were either very seasoned musicians or an approximation of, to where they could make you believe they were while they were playing. And I'm not sure that exists in the same capacity here in Indianapolis. That being said, if I could just walk outside my front door and have band practice, I'd think about it. But starting over again, I did it. I did it as good as I possibly could in the best way and time of my life that I could. I am tired now.
I understand.
I've seen as much of the world as I want to see. I don't have the urge to hit the road. I don't have the urge to wade through other people's bullshit and trying to get a song written.
You don't want to sleep on kitchen floors?
No, man.
In Cincinnati?
No, not again. I've actually so my family, because I have one of those and they actually like me, have included me in the annual family camping thing that we do here in Indiana at one of the state parks. Mm-hmm. And I had to set boundaries with them that, yes, I would join them. However, do they have cabins there? Is there a hotel close by? I don't sleep on the floor, and I need somewhere to poop the flushes. Mm-hmm. That's the life that I'm living now. That's the comfort that I demand and feel that I deserve. I'm worth it.
You've earned it. You've earned it, Phil.
I think so. That's what I tell everybody. And I pay for it also. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. So you had left New York, let's just say beginning of 2019, and then I left the beginning of 2020. Mm-hmm. And then we hadn't seen each other in forever. So you were visiting relatives in North Carolina, And I had moved back, so I was working in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a while, and then I moved back to North Carolina. So this was already about 2 years in. So it'd been 2022, yeah. So it'd been probably at least 2 years since I'd really even seen anybody from New York. And then so you came to visit, and it was like the scenario was like this. It was like off Rambo 2. I'm pretty sure it was Rambo 2 at the very beginning. I think it's the colonel or whoever that dude is. He's like just randomly searching Vietnam, and he comes upon this house in the middle of nowhere, and there's this guy out there chopping wood, and he goes up and he's like, "John!" And he looks at him. He can't. That's what it was like when you came up. You're like, you find me out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it was good to see you. I don't think I had seen anybody since I had left also.
And then you met, and then I think it was the year after that you came. I think it was 2023. You would come, and we actually met up in a place. We met up at Waffle House of all
Correct.
places.
Yes.
I think we sat there and we talked for like 3 hours, drank coffee
By
and
popular
stuff.
demand, yes.
And I think that was when I was telling you, I was like, I got all these plans, but I got to get my financial situation straightened out to where I'm back making money like I was in New York, or at least somewhat, to where I have free time. I don't got to worry about stuff. Which I was fortunate. I worked my ass off, but now I'm in a spot. Now I have the free time. I can do stuff like this. I can sit down and talk to friends and about whatever, about people, shitting in the subway, which is always a good time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I enjoy it very
always.
much. And I was telling you in 2023, I have all these plans. I'm going to do this. So I'm finally this year, and a little bit at the end of last year, finally starting doing it. I got all this content, the video game stuff I'm doing, the podcast, the music. I got a new album coming out, which is it's a collection of the video game and anime songs that I've done, and I went back and remastered them, remixed them a bit.
I'm a subscriber
more
to
stuff
your
coming
YouTube channel, for sure.
I got some other stuff coming too. I'm going to be doing where I want to go. So I started hiking a lot when I came back here, because why not? That's one I couldn't really do it in New York, but I didn't need to. I'm walking up steps and everything else. So I started hiking a lot. I'm going to start doing these videos where I it's like, let's take a hike, or I don't know if that's what I'm going to call it. But it's going to be kind of like Survivor Band, except it's going to be hiking.
Take a hike early.
Take a hike.
Comma, early. Take a hike early.
Early take a hike, or take a hike early?
Take a hike, comma, early. It's like a signature.
Got to have that comma in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, so I was telling you, I want to do this, and finally here it is, and now it's happening. I got all this stuff, so I got 4 more episodes already recorded. I haven't released, so I got to ask you this definitely before we wrap up, and I'm going to ask have you ever had any sort of Bigfoot, ghost, or UFO encounter? Can be any one of them. And I doubt Bigfoot. You don't, because you seem like you don't want to hang out in state parks. But who knows? When you were younger, you might have been out in the woods somewhere.
No Bigfoot. I don't believe in ghosts and aliens. No, I wish, man. I really wish. I think if I had one of those kind of encounters, it would probably help me understand the universe a bit better. But I don't. No Bigfoot, no. Not here in Indiana. Wrong terrain. Aliens, I guess, but it was big in the news a little while ago. It feels a little like Shark Week, though, in
right.
As much as, like, the aliens, it was so hot last year. But I don't know what happened with that. I figure if aliens are real, they probably be more interested in avoiding us or wiping us out.
That's pretty much the right attitude to have, I would say. Here's the thing, unless you've had your own experience, you should always be skeptical. Like, before I saw a UFO, I thought it was, I would always just say, well, that could easily be CGI. That could easily be, I was actually really angry the first time I saw the UFOs, is because I was like, well, now every time I see one of these stupid YouTube videos, I'm going to have to say, well, that could be real, because that's exactly what I saw. So that's the thing. Honestly, you're better off not seeing them, I would say.
I'm not saying it's real or not. I don't know.
I would say, do your best.
Ghosts,
like if you're with somebody and hey, look, a UFO, just don't even look. Just don't even look. Just look down. Look at I don't see nothing. Then you'll be better off that way.
But that's what I do with stuff that are my real problems.
Well, just look at the ground.
Just look at it. I don't see it. Every time I pull into my driveway, I pretend I don't see that a tree fell on my fence, and I still have to get it fixed months later because my fence is all fucked up. I just look at the ground, pretend I don't see it. But ghosts, see, I have my sister gives a shit about ghosts. She thinks her house is haunted. My wife, she cares about ghosts. She believes places can be haunted. I don't think so. I don't think ghosts are real.
I didn't either before my first apartment in Philadelphia. I didn't believe in them either. I thought it was
that's just bad pipes, like when the heat turns on and things.
See, I'd done all
around.
that work. No, this was something would come up and jiggle the doorknob, and then you open the door, nothing's there. Weird stuff. I was all right, and then footsteps like right over, like a few feet away, and then you look and there's nobody there. But I ran it off though. I was mean to it. I was typical Earl at the time. I've gotten a lot more calmer over the years. So,
not nicer, but calmer.
I would say that's a sufficient explanation. So, but I was mean to it. I was like, listen, if you're going to live here, you're going to have to start helping pay rent because it's expensive. And there's no way you're going to continue to be here if you don't start. You're going to have to get a job, a ghost job or something. And I would start talking to it like this, and then eventually just nothing. It just went away. I think I annoyed it out of there.
I can see it.
But we got
maybe got a ghost job. I remember that being a big thing in Chicago for a while.
Ghost job?
The Chicago government. Yeah, they had a bunch of ghost jobs. People were
Wasn't
getting
that like
paid
some
didn't
mafia
exist.
stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the mob's not
They even
real,
had in New York though. Apparently, like even in New York, like apparently the mafia used to have people would work at the Javits Center, and they weren't even real jobs. They were just getting paycheck, but they claimed they had a job down at Javits Center. But this is back like I think 80s and 90s and stuff.
I believe in ghost jobs.
Good enough. Is there anything else that we should talk about that you wanted to share?
I would like to tell everybody watching and listening to like and subscribe Earl's profile, whatever place this ends up on, if it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram. Are you on Pornhub? Do you have? You should upload this into adult ones too.
I'm only going to put this
right
episode on Pornhub. That's
okay.
it. Only
People
this episode.
People are putting like real, there's math lessons and stuff on there, complicated math.
I saw that. Yeah, somebody put.
Yeah. Just a suggestion. You know what you're doing. I believe in you, Earl. I subscribe. I wish you nothing but the best and support. I'll keep refreshing your page where you make your woodworking stuff because those are fantastic. I've bought things from you several times as gifts for other people, and they always love it to my face when I give it to them.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on the show. Very much appreciated. It's been great catching up, talking. And if you want to come back, if you ever have anything else going on, you want to come back, or if you just want to come back on and we can talk, we can do an episode where we can just talk. But what we'll do, we'll talk in the most soft tone like this, just so people. It'll be an episode that people can go to sleep to, and that will be the only purpose of it. And we won't even really be talking about anything. I mean, basically, we could get we could pull up, the weather and just start reading the weather, but we'll talk really slow. So let's practice. Okay. So, Phill, how are you doing? Are you doing all right today?
I'm doing great, Earl. Can I offer you an idea?
Sure. I am open to any and all ideas.
I think you should put all of your YouTube videos on one giant playlist that you add to every time you get a new video. That way, when someone's falling asleep at night, they can just hit play on that playlist and it cycles all of your videos for hours.
I do have a playlist for every podcast. I have one for the podcasts and for shorts. Mm-hmm. But that's not a bad idea. Just make a long playlist of all of them.
All of them, and each time add.
And then when Murdoch's trash bag comes on and we're screaming about trash bags, that will be very soothing and relaxing for the sleep process.
Time to wake up.
Everybody,
trash bags.
thank you for joining us. Phill, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Earl. I appreciate it.
We'll talk to everybody later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Something I said, you got me lying on your couch here for so long, just trying to get in my head. Yeah, you're always talking about a new medication to help me sleep through the night. Alright, just another misdirected sublimation, baby. I never could get it right. Sometimes I still fantasize about the shot. Therapy and signs are irreversible. Damage and disease, I want a shot. Therapy and voices in my head turn from whispers in a scream. Forever, yeah, but I know who's on the line. I got everybody looking for money, honey. I'll never pay them on time. No, well this time they got me nervous, but I could use some, yeah. They talking about discovering a noble purpose, while the suggestions obscene. I think you know what I mean. I want a shot, go, therapy. I'll get that pattern pencil doctor. Give me what I need. I'm talking shot, go, therapy. And voices in my head turn from whispers in a scream. On the NMPI, so a Venus fuck his mama in the Russian blots. Now right in my head, what have I got? What a shot! No, never pay. Signs are irreversible. Damage and disease. I want a shot. No, therapy. I'll get that medical, baby. You know what I need? I'm talking shot. Good therapy. Doctor, please, I want a shot. Go, therapy. I'll voices in my head, different whispers into scream.